So let's work on the Add Resource screen. On this screen here, I in the end want to have a form. And I'll wrap that form into my good old base card to have that card look around the form. And then we can add the form element in there, the native HTML element, and now add the different input fields which we'll need. That will be an input field for the title of the resource. I also want to give it a label to make it clear what the user should enter here. And I'll say title here. And I'll give the input here not just a type, but also an ID of title and a name of title. And on the label, we can add the for attribute and point at title to make it a bit more accessible and make it clear what we're referring to. I'll also wrap that all into a div, which will help me with styling later. And I'll give this div a class of form-control because that is a CSS class for which I already prepared some styling, which we can soon add. Now let's copy this entire div because we need more than one control. We also need a control for the description of the resource. And actually there I don't want to use an input element, but a text area, so that the user has a multi-line input field available, which makes entering longer texts more convenient. So here I'll set the ID to description, and therefore also set the for attribute on the label to description, set the name to description here, and set the rows attribute here to free to define how big this text area will be. Now I'll copy the first div again, because now I want an input again for the link. So here I'll set the for attribute to link, the ID to link, the name to link, and the type to URL, which is one of the native HTML input element types, helping us with entering a URL here. And now last but not least, one other div, and in that div, we want to have the button for submitting this. So I'll add the base button, set the type to submit, and also give it a caption, of course, which will be add resource. One short note about the type. On the base button, I added this type prop and I forwarded to the regular type attribute on the button. I did mention this fall through behavior earlier though, and therefore we could actually also remove that and remove this prop here, and therefore just use the props which we really added on our own, and it would still work because this type which I'm setting here on the base button will automatically fall through to the root HTML element inside of the base button template, which is this button. That's just another note on that. With that, I have the submit button in place though, and now I want to add some styling, which I of course prepared in advance. So I'll add some scoped style slots here, and attached you find add resource CSS file. As always, copy the CSS rules you find in there into this style tag in the add resource.view file, and this will give us some nice styling for this component. Okay, so if we save this now, we should see this form on the screen. Not too bad, but of course it's not doing anything. And we want to ensure that the user is able to click this button. We then collect all the user input, and then we add a new resource based on that input. Now, as before, definitely feel free to try this on your own. We'll implement it together, step by step, in the next lecture.